Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to welcome you all for this webinar on resiliency in manufacturing, smart manufacturing approaches to build COVID-19 resident business. Now I welcome Mr. A.R.M. Arun, President of SICKI, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Bhavani. Mr. Vishnu Mahajan, IAS Additional Director of Industries and Commerce, Department of Industries, Government of Tamil Nadu. Mr. Eisenhower Swaminathan, Managing Director of Saint Gopi in India Private Limited. Mr. M.V. Subramanian, Chairman of SICKI's Technology Committee. Mr. M. Balachandran, President of AMA, Ambattur Industrial Estate Manufacturers Association. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to each of you. And I would like to welcome you on behalf of SICKI to this very important event. We would like to appreciate AMA's partnering with us for this event. SICKI, as you would already know, has just completed 110 years of service to industry. We are now further energized, and in the process, we have identified several important sectors for us to be focusing on during the current year. This is especially considering the COVID scenario that is prevailing upon us. Each of our sectoral committees are well identified on our website. I would like to encourage you to visit our website and get to know what these committees are so that you could definitely partner with us for all our programs. We have also started several new initiatives this year, and these initiatives are also listed on our website. Each one of these are certainly interesting programs which are worthwhile for each of you to keep track going forward. Considering this, your membership with us will definitely assist you and your business keep pace with the changing times. We certainly look forward to this. Looking at today's event, in this downturn caused by COVID and the ongoing lockdown, it's normal for businesses to expect various kinds of government incentives. Yes, these kinds of incentives have happened in other countries, and it's quite normal for our businesses also to expect the same. However, this being aside, we at the same time have to see what we do for ourselves to keep moving forward. This is the primary interest of our own business and not completely having to depend on government alone. Considering this is why I found today's event particularly interesting, as it deals with one of the actions we can take ourselves to assist our own business. The event is titled Resilience in Manufacturing. When we look at the word resilience, it's an extremely important word, especially in today's context. Resilience refers to bouncing back from any downturn, any disturbance, any uncertainty, or the like. Manufacturers are an extremely important component of our economy today. With industry going through profound changes due to this crisis, we need to realize that we have to adapt to the demands of the changing world. The important realization that we need to have towards this is that as a race, humans are adaptable, and hence we have to welcome this change rather than resisting it in any way. Considering these points, we are sure today's event will open out avenues for each of you to further progress upon within each of your businesses. We at SICKI are extremely glad that our technology committee under Mr. Subramaniam's leadership is one of our first sectoral committees to start conducting events this year. While conveying our best wishes to Mr. Subramaniam and his team, we certainly look forward to more such valuable programs happening in the time to come. SICKI doesn't want to just conduct programs. We want to value add as part of every program that we do. We are hence wanting to hear from industry, each one of you, on what your inputs are so that it will allow us to follow through with government accordingly. In this context, we will be conducting a survey where we are keen to gauge the level of technology adoption in each of your businesses. What could be the limiting factors for this technology adoption? and what are your suggested remedies forward? Our technology committee will be compiling the inputs together so that we can then present it to the government and ensure the needful progress. We encourage your participation towards this. In conclusion, we would like to wish you a valuable learning experience this afternoon with today's event. We also look forward to your participation in each of our programs across the various sectors that we've identified. Please share your feedback about today's event to us. It will certainly assist us in improving our programs for you in the coming days. Again, appreciate your presence with us today. Thank you and look forward. Bhavani?
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I request Mr. Vishu Mahajan, IAS Additional Director of Industries and Commerce, Department of Industries, Government of Tamil Nadu, and MD of MTIB to deliver the special address.
Very good afternoon to everyone who is present in this webinar today. I'll just briefly introduce myself. My name is Vishu Mahajan. I'm an IS officer of the 2016 batch, and I have recently joined the Industries Department around a month ago as the Additional Commissioner of Industries and Commerce. And also, as the Additional Commissioner, I'm also the ex facto MD of MTIB. MTIB is an organization that has been set up recently by the government of Tamil Nadu to promote trade and investment in the MSME sector and specifically focus on experts, which has been a hitherto uncharted territory for the state government. It has largely been seen as a prerogative of the central government. So that is a brief introduction about me. I am very happy to be present in this along with the illustrious panel members. I would like to share a brief presentation, if you could allow me to share that content. I just want to briefly speak about MTIB and also, as per the earlier discussion, speak briefly about the institutional support mechanisms that are available in Tamil Nadu government setup for MSMEs. So I'll just like to share a small presentation. And I also wanted to take this opportunity. I know it's not part of the official topic, but since I'm present here, I wanted to send across my message about MTIB and how MTIB plans to engage with the industry and become slowly a single point of contact for MSMEs, much similar to what Guidance Bureau has been doing for the large industry. So with the permission of the panel members and the president, I'll just start this presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So most of the things in here would already be known to everyone in this panel. I'll just briefly touch upon the basic about MSME sector and the support institutions that are present in the government of Tamil Nadu for MSMEs. So this is just very preliminary data. I think we'll just skip this. So this is the institutional ecosystem for MSMEs in the government of Tamil Nadu. Most of you would already be aware of these institutions. The Industries Commissioner and Director of Industries and Commerce leads the MSME department as such, working under the control of the MSME Secretary. Then at the cutting edge, there are the District Industry Center. This is a setup and a framework which is specifically oriented and focused towards MSMEs, and nothing of this sort at the district level or any presence at the field level is present in the large industry setup. So the district industry center serves as the nerve center for all activities related to industries from the government's side. So here is where MTIB's role comes in, and MTIB basically aims to be the single point of contact which coordinates with all other government agencies for you. So MSME Trade and Investment Promotion Bureau shall broadly focus on trade promotion, more specifically export promotion, and also business facilitation for MSMEs, and also coordinate the single window clearance system for MSMEs. Then there is the Tamil Nadu Small Industries Development Corporation, which largely manages the MSME industrial estates. EDI is also another institution working under the MSME department of the government of Tamil Nadu, which mostly deals with facilitation of startups and new companies. Similarly, there is the Tamil Nadu Industrial Investment Corporation, which deals with financing, availing finance to MSMEs. So I've already touched upon these. I'll move to the next one. These are the different schemes. So the commissionerate in this setup, the commissionerate deals mostly with the schemes and implementation of schemes which cut across different areas like investment subsidies or your interest subvention or promotion of new and innovative technologies or promotion of energy efficiency. Similarly, on the employment side, there is the three flagship schemes of the state government. So this is roughly the scheme framework which is implemented by the Commissionerate of Industries and Commerce. So again, briefly wanted to, because this is a new organization, so I've been speaking about MTIB as the MD in all of the webinars and online meetings that have been happening, and we've started engaging with all kinds of stakeholders in the MSME landscape. And I've been having stakeholder meetings also with various export promotion councils, etc. So MTech was established last year in September. Like I said, our goal is threefold. The first aspect of MTIB is to promote trade and investment in the MSME sector with a special focus on exports. The second thing is business facilitation. So liaising with all different government departments through the DIC at the district or through the commissionerate at the state level for any issues that are being faced by the industry, and also getting the clearances passed through the single window portal of the Tamil Nadu government. The third aspect is to act as a knowledge center regarding information related to MSMEs. There is a lot of information on the internet, but there is no single place where it is collated and some actionable insights are provided for policymakers in the government. So if I need information, I have to see at least 4 or 5 different places on the internet to collate information and then make sense of what is happening, and then come to a conclusion or come to a decision with respect to policy making. Apart from that, the usual work that earlier SIDCO had been sort of doing related to facilitating participation in global events, facilitating MSME participation in trade expos, exhibitions, trade fairs. So that is another activity which was started in September, but after the pandemic hit, none of the physical activities have happened. So as things ease out, we are looking to get back into that mode and facilitate a lot of MSME participation in global events. again, I have more or less touched on this. One thing that we have started now is the district export hub. Recently, as per the Prime Minister's announcement, a model of one district, one product is being sort of promoted, and we are glad that we've started focusing on exports at the cutting edge. So what has been happening is that it is more or less the central government and its agencies like the DGFT or the Directorate of Commercial Intelligence, which deal with exports or deal with issues related to exports. But now, after the Prime Minister's announcements, a state level export promotion committee as well as district level export promotion committees under the chairmanship of the district collectors have been formed. So these committees, since they are chaired by the district collector, it will deal with higher level issues or major problems or major bottlenecks that are existing. But at the cutting edge, the district industry centers, which is already the focal point of all activities related to industries, that will act as the focal point also for export promotion. So this we are proposing to do through dedicated manpower, which is trained in the export segment and sits in the district industry center in a export promotion help desk kind of format throughout the week, and they're dedicated only for exports. In the preliminary phase, we have taken up 10 districts, and we are training existing staff of the district industry center in the export sector through various agencies and export promotion councils. So this is something that we have recently started and are planning to get into in a big way.
Sir?
I think we have
Sir?
lost him. I think we lost him.
Yes, I guess.
Can you ask somebody to please call Mr. Mahajan and find out what's going on?
Sure, sir. Is there online? I will call. Give me a moment, sir, please.
Mr. Subramaniam, in the meantime, would you like to share any points before we continue?
Yeah, because the screen is actually blocked now. Anyway, I'm not going to present anything. Very good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Arun, for this opportunity for us to work together. Yes. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Subramaniam.
Yes. And for the opportunity to work in the SICI-like organization for building our industries in Tamil Nadu. I will probably attempt, this is the first attempt which I'm making as a webinar. So primarily we looked at the subject which we want to cover, which has already been probably covered by most of the other industrial groups also. But we wanted to make a little difference in terms of how we wanted to, how we wanted to address this kind of an issue, because we cannot completely address, but we will be able to give some inputs and directions over a period of time when the companies start adapting it and the resilience is get built. Resilience cannot be built overnight, and resilience has to be built over a period of time. Given that background, I come from an IT background where I found that how the resilience has worked for us, and one of the industries which is already doing well is IT after this COVID situation also. I looked at the COVID situation. I also looked at what do you mean by resilience in this COVID situation. it was very, very unfair to say that every company would have been have built a resilience in COVID situation, because it was not a situation where you have been disturbed in one or two segments, particularly manufacturing. All the functions of the manufacturing has been disturbed. Above all that, there was a lockdown. Above all that, there is a control mechanism in terms of how the industries can perform or given this background, probably we actually gathered presentation by them, but it is in a directional level. We will be able to give inputs for our audience to find out which are the areas which we miss in together to build this what you call that resilience in our organization to go forward. Resilience is not only built for managing the what do we call that uncertainties. It is also to evolve. We consider this resilience for evolution of our company going forward, because we have actually been affected very well during this COVID situation. In my lifetime or anybody's lifetime, this may be the most what you call that disturbance which we could have seen to build a if we have built a resilience in this. I don't think we have to be bothered about, but I'm doubtful whether we can do it for all the factors which has been considered during this COVID period. But I also have to present, there are companies during this COVID situation, they also found inside this problem, they also found customers in different regions and they grew. Manufacturing industry, if I say that one of the smallest company grew very well, I am also surprised, but he found niche customers, or the customers who are not able to find a very large what do you call that suppliers, they got into the smaller customers and they started procuring components from them, and this company grew 200% in this COVID times. I was also surprised. So this is something which can happen, and I think there is some potential in looking at in detail what are the areas which we have to plan for resilience during this period. Given this background, probably I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Anand Seshan. Anand Seshan is from Canada, and he is in a different time zone. He is a doctorate in robotics, and he also runs IoT backed business, which has a center in Chennai, and he has seen very large companies which is introducing smart manufacturing. He also works with the a kind of cluster of companies in Canada and US to find out how a OEM and the suppliers can work together to find out to build a resilience in terms of building a smart manufacturing in the unit. I allow Mr. Anand Seshan to give his presentation. I'll be muting myself, and you can have, after each presentation, probably you can have one or two questions so that it will be helpful for us to complete the event within the time frame. Thank you very much.
Mr. Srinivasan, Mr. Subramanian, just as part of the inaugural, shall we finish that agenda so that, and then we can go to the next, because we are not able to have Mr. Mahajan join us. Shall we go through the agenda of the inaugural session?
Can you do that favor?
So maybe we can go ahead with Mr. Aitanava first, and then we can wait for Mr. Mahajan to come online and then continue with the rest of the speakers. Mr. Eisenhower, can we request you to please share your thoughts?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I'll just see how to share the.
So
Can you see my slide?
it's now time to hear from.
Can you see my slide? Okay, I'll do that. Okay. Now can you see it?
Yes,
Bhavani,
sir.
can you see it now?
But it's blank.
You can see it now?
Yes, sir.
Can you see my? You can see it? Okay, shall I start? Can I start? Can everybody hear me? Okay, good afternoon to everybody. I think thank you, President, Mr. Arun. Thank you to all the members of SICI for having given me this opportunity. My good afternoon to all the other co-panelists. I'll just take you through a small presentation on what Saint-Gobain did during and how we manage the show. As you know that Saint-Gobain manufactures glass, which is a continuous process 24/7. Therefore, we could not stop. Even in the first lockdown on 23rd March, we managed to bring in 75 to 100 people inside the factory and kept our furnaces hot. It's very expensive, but we had to do it in Chennai, we had to do it in Gujarat, we had to do it in Bhiwadi, Rajasthan. At least in Gujarat, it was many factories are there. In Chennai, it is only a few factories like MRL, MFL, and us who ran. Therefore, we did a lot of protocol, how to manage it. So I'm just starting my presentation. This gives you a bird's eye view of our complex at Chennai. You can see my cursor. This is the rainwater harvesting pond, where we harvest 60% of our water needs from the roof for buildings of all our factories. We have 3 floats, 2 coaters, 1 mirror, 1 Securit, which makes glass for Hyundai and other car companies. And we have a solutions here in the side, which makes the glass for the front facades. So Saint-Gobain, as you know, is a 41 billion euro company. We started 355 years back. To put you in the right perspective, 1665 Taj Mahal also started, which is also of similar age. So that is the time when Saint-Gobain started. In Saint-Gobain, innovation is one thing which we follow. So 1 out of the 5 products that we sell, it did not exist 5 years ago. This is our way we manage our company. So these are the businesses we represent in India. We have Grindwell Norton, which was the mother company for Saint-Gobain to enter, because when they took over Norton's in the US, so Grindwell Norton came under them. We have crystals deductors, the refractories for the glass industry, the ceramic materials, Saint-Gobain Glass India, Saint-Gobain Securit, Saint-Gobain Solutions, Saint-Gobain Weber, Saint-Gobain Gyproc. Gyproc is the one which makes the false ceiling. And we have a full-fledged research center in the IIT Research Park at Chennai, where more than 250 doctorate are working on various products for improvement in process, new products for the tropical countries. So this is how Saint-Gobain started in Chennai. So we started in 2000, and in 2008, you can see the amount of investment that has come. We started with the investment of about 550 crores, and today it's about 4,500 to 5,000 crores invested at this one particular location in Chennai at Sri Perumbudur. So this is what I told you, 177 acre complex. We have 3 floats. We have car sets making 1.3 million, mirror, advanced solutions, etc. And we export to 30 plus countries. We have built an urban forest in this concrete jungle. We have about 75,000 trees, and this year we will reach 100,000 trees in that area. This urban forest is a system developed by the Japanese scientists. So in 1 square meter, you can do 3 trees, and they should be of the native, not imported trees. It should be the native specimens. And this has caught up very well. We got it from Toyota, and we did it here. And it's really bringing a small climate change within our factory. So this is the process. We have a furnace, a float, where the glass is floated on liquid tin, and the layer is nothing but an annealing layer, and the quarry is nothing but the cutting line. So what did we do when the COVID was declared? So we made a structure for preventive and safety measures. We formed a management committee team with which we started forecasting many things. What are the issues? We had to align with the government protocols. For continuous industries, they gave some protocol. We had to follow that. We had a business recovery plan. We also business continuity plan. We had to have a lot of safety protocols introduced, which were not there earlier. So we did a lot of this work and ensured that we could do that. We had an awareness creation in the ecosystem. We had to teach people to have social distancing, wearing masks, hand washing, personal hygiene, following the protocol, etc. So we had a lot of interactions with the people, everything by video and nothing direct, no face to face. New normal practices, we said entry into the site, the travel from the house in the buses, we made seats only alternate seats. We had to make differences in the vehicles. The gate, we completely changed the entry system so that people will come in. They have a scanner which measures their temperature on the TV. Then while coming in, they had an app which they have to fill in, or including their Arogya Setu status, so that only if that is filled, the temperature scanner will say okay and allow him to go in. So this is all we did. We had to do this even for our truck guys who were entering. So it is quite a lot of work that we had to do at all the gates. We made work from home for everybody. We expanded our Microsoft Teams, and we had so many meetings in which 3,000 to 4,000 people could participate for the entire group in India. And we were able to communicate every week what is the position and how the company is faring. Right from 23rd of April, we started dispatching material on exports to various countries. So the production was started and also the export started from the 23rd of April to various countries. On the hygiene initiatives, we had a lot of personal hygiene. We also told the people when they go home how they have to behave. Also told the families, we had some teams meeting with the families and told them what all they should do and what all they should not do in when they go to market or etc. And if any one person in our family was affected by COVID, we ensured that totally they were quarantined. We made arrangements with hospitals for our employees to get admitted. And also we said, if there is a quarantine and they are not able to go out, how to reach the provisions and other essentials, we made arrangements for that. So we completely sanitized the offices, though we did not use it. And we put in a lot of systems. We started our offices only on the 1st of October after 6 months. And that also only 20%, 25% of the people are coming in. Only thing, our factories are running. Now it is full production and we are sending to all over the place in India. So I think I would say that we are nearly back to about 70 to 80% of our pre-COVID levels. We have even started some more work on the project side. So what were the preparedness for critical incidents? We started looking at if there is a person is affected by COVID. What we wanted to do is we started zoning our entire factory into various zones. This zoning, I'll show you in the next slide, helped us to limit the number of people we had to quarantine as primary or secondary contact if one person was detected with COVID. And if a family member is tested with COVID, we said the employee is quarantined for 14 days. We made extra leave facilities for those employees affected by COVID. So the multifunctional crisis recovery team under the leadership of the operations head to plan, monitor and guide the work group. We ensured that align with both state and central government protocols. If there is a migrant labor to come in, he had to go through the protocol. He had to go through the quarantine. And 24/7, we were available to guide and monitor and review the situation. So this is what I told you, the zoning. So people in one zone could not go to the other zone. So even if I'm in the factory, I don't go inside. I talk to the people through only on the video. So this managed us to ensure, I'll show you in the next slide. See, this is the various protocols that we did in the offices, at the entry points, at the buses, the cars that were coming in the toilets, we ensure we closed one. So this, in spite of the fact that we had 4 or 5 cases coming up, we were able to reduce the number of people who had to be quarantined because of our zoning. So in summary, I would say value, I'll explain to you what is value, adaptation to the new normal, competitiveness, I heard Mr. Subramaniam talking about some companies doing 120%. Yes, there are some companies in our group also which did very well. The investment, the network, and the enablers. If you really look at it, it looks like this. It's a vaccine. So what is the value? The value is the value chain analysis, and we started doing that and developing strong business for exports. Adapting to the new normal, health protocol, skill assessment, supply chain recasting it, planning, competitiveness, sector level global benchmarking, and structured cost reduction exercise, because we had to really tighten because we lost so much revenue for 2 months. So we did a lot of cost reduction, and we did a structured review with the global factories of ours, how they managed. The capability, we had to recast some of the skills because many things we were not getting people. So we had to have people with multi-skills so that we could run more places. Because earlier we were not getting that many labor also, but still we had to manage our production. We went in more and more into industry 4.0 and started linking the business goal. We want to do it more and more with industry 4.0 and consolidate the productivity increase that we have got now. So in a crisis like COVID, we found opportunities to improve our productivity. We want to now ensure that it is sustained. In the investment, we have to really look at how to do the assessment on the type and scale, and also because India is now talking about Atmanirbhar and also an alternate to China. So what is it that we have to do within our factory to meet this aspiration or meet this opportunity created by the government of India? The network, we had to do a lot of value chain and labor, because I think we had to do a lot of networking with all our government, because a lot of interaction was required with the government, because we had to move material, we had to get material, we had to clear our customs and bring in some imported raw materials, imported spares, because the factory is running. So we required a lot of networking we had to do. Last but not least are the enablers. We had to leverage our financial strength, and we said we will not be complacent. We will run whenever we have to run. We will not be complacent and sit back and relax. Now that we are selling little more than what we sold last month, let us be happy. So that thing was not there for us. We had to remove that in the minds of all our people. And this is how we said we will be resilient. We have bounced back, and we want to now sustain and continue our growth. This is what Sengoben we did in a small nutshell of 10 minutes, which I was allotted. I tried to present this. So this is our factory, and you can see the urban forest also. There's one portion of the urban forest which we have made. So thank you, sir, for this opportunity. Any questions, I'm prepared to answer.
Yeah, it was a wonderful presentation, Mr. Hazelwood. So you have given a very large perspective about how detailed you have gone as an organization to make sure that you are able to do a kind of a planning during this COVID situation. I am sure that you would have gone through so much of planning and activity over a period of time, and many of you would have lost sleep during this time because the COVID was above all our head. And given this, and anybody who wanted to have some questions, maybe one or two questions can be asked with Mr. MD of St. Govind. That will be helpful for you. Thank you. Probably we will go forward, and Mr. Arun, can we go ahead with the Mr. MD's the TIPP?
Mr. Subramaniam, I think Mr. Mahajan lost us earlier, and now he's online. Maybe we can request him to finish his presentation.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Mr. President, can I take leave? Because I have another meeting to go. Can I take leave with you?
Yes, Mr. Eisenhower, thank you for your participation. Perhaps some of our members might like to access your presentation. If you don't mind sharing it, we would appreciate that.
I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mahajan, are you online?
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot,
Hello.
sir.
I apologize for that thing. The system just shut down by itself. So I logged in back, and thank you. I was watching this Saint Gobain MD's presentation also, and he presented a very detailed description of what changes and what adaptations they did during the COVID pandemic. So I'll again just start sharing my screen. Is this visible?
Yes, it's go ahead.
So I was just speaking about how we are planning to set up these district export hubs at the DICs and have trained focused resource persons for the purpose of export facilitation for MSMEs. Another thing that we have recently started looking at, since finance and provision of alternative financing opportunities has been a constant issue in the MSME space, we have also now tied up with NSE Emerge, and we have started doing workshops with MSMEs in the districts to help them onboard on the NSE Merge platform to raise capital through the equity markets. So coming back to COVID, we have all been affected by it. The entire world has been affected by it, and we have seen economies shrinking, exports shrinking, trade has taken a huge hit, and we're sort of slowly trying to find our way back to normalcy. And that's where today's topic about resilience, and specifically resilience of businesses in the times of COVID, but also more generally about resilience in general in a business. And if we have that kind of my feeling is that if we have business risk management as a general focus area in the industry, then specific instances can be managed. So this is similar to what we have been facing in government in terms of disaster management throughout the years, and now more or less there is a established structure and framework in place for disaster management after the enactment of the Disaster Management Act and the creation of plans at the district level. So I feel from my experience in my previous posting as a sub-collector in Chidambaram, where we saw the Gaja cyclone hitting, and in general being involved with disaster management as a administrator, I have felt that instead of looking at a risk management for specific to different instances, if we think about it from a broader point of view and have systems in place to manage business risk, it will help us to deal with specific instances of the same. So I was also asked to speak about what steps government has taken to boost or to help the MSME sector during this pandemic. So most of you would also be knowing, already be knowing of most of the schemes and the credit lines that were started by the government. For example, the emergency credit line guarantee scheme of 3 lakh crores, which was started under the Atmanirbhar program by the government of India. Similarly, the 40,000 crore subordinate debt for stressed MSMEs was also started for capital infusion. Tamil Nadu government has started the COVID relief and upliftment scheme for MSMEs. It's shortly called CORUS. It's a 200 crore allocation for funding support through the Tamil Nadu Industrial Investment Corporation, which I spoke about earlier. Similarly, in terms of manpower availability and sudden shocks to manpower due to unforeseen event, we are now tying up with the National Skill Development Corporation, who have now started a private job portal, and we are trying to onboard the MSMEs onto that portal so that they have access to trained and expert manpower, and they can directly hire through the same portal. Similarly, the MSME facilitation councils for realization of the receivables under MSME Samadhan scheme has constantly been functioning, and all the hearings have been held online, and it continued throughout the pandemic period because there was already stress, and because of unrealized pending payments or receivables, it was further exacerbated. So we continued this through online mode, and continuously hearings have been held. There's also a kind of link up that was done of MSMEs to spruce up production of COVID related materials. So we're constantly in touch with health department and putting them in touch with vendors who could provide, and also the district administrations, and putting them in touch with the MSME vendors who could directly provide these materials in a short while. Apart from that, some other things have been done. Procedural relaxations have been given in terms of availing various schemes of the MSME department. The true flagship schemes, that is the employment generation schemes called NEEDS and UYEGP. Various procedural issues were relaxed. For example, the beneficiary selection was made, it was just done away with, and the banks directly took the call whether they want to fund them or not. The task force was dismantled. Then availing the capital subsidy, there is specific criteria that were also relaxed. Then extensions were granted for payments that are to be made to specifically CITCO. So the main scheme, which was the credit line that was given by the government of India, Tamil Nadu has done a great job in disbursing these loans and putting funds into the system, and flushing the MSME sector with funds in a lean period. So we are currently at the second level in the country in terms of fund disbursement under this credit line. So I'm coming back. This is the last bit I want to touch upon. Generally, what I was talking about earlier about building a system for any kind of risk management, and thinking about resilience in not specific instances, but in general as a system that needs to be created within the organization across various dimensions, whether it is adoption of new technology for reducing risk, diversifying your sources of finance, diversifying your clientele. MSME sector also has no very little penetration of commercial insurance. So this is another thing that we are looking at from MTIB and the Directorate of Industries. We are planning to come out with insurance schemes that will be run by government for MSME sector, so that it becomes a habit. So if you see in other countries, a lot of these are mandatory for setting up businesses. There are countries in Europe where commercial insurance is mandatory for setting up of small industries. So we have to think about hedging of risk and risk management as a natural business activity, not to be done in special times, but as a similar, on par with other business activities which are usually undertaken in running the business. And insurance is one of them, and it has to be normalized. Similarly, having clear processes similar to what was just shared by Saint Gobain. So having very clear SOPs at the outset, having your committees in place, having SOPs written down and shared, and constant trainings with your manpower, and being abreast with your organizational procedures and being up to date with them. These are some of the things which we should do on a regular basis in the functioning of our business, so that when disaster strikes or when such kind of a thing strikes, we are not taken by surprise. So this is all I had to say from my end. Over to the panelists. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. It is a pleasure to be among the company of such illustrious people. Thank you again.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you a lot for your presentation. Forward with the panel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Bhavani. Can you just make a presentation on who are all the speakers? Yeah. Probably I can get introduced as being a chairman of technology, which I've been given an opportunity to work, which I've told already before. Can you push it to the next person? Yeah, Dr. Anand, who is going to be our next speaker. He is the chairman of 5G group of companies. As I introduced him, is a doctorate in robotics, and he runs a company on robotics and IoT. He has done a large implementation on smart manufacturing globally. He also has the experience of working with Msmes globally, particularly large group of companies under a OEM in US and US and Canada. And he also works with the Japanese Productivity Council to make sure that whether the smart manufacturing, how it can be introduced inside India to increase the productivity. He has a base in Chennai, and I think his software company works from Chennai. With this introduction, I allow Dr. Anand to go ahead and take over and then present the smart manufacturing, give a glimpse of what he has done. Thank you very much, Dr. Anand, for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my video screens rather. Are you able to see my screen?
Sir, we can.
Okay. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Mr. Mani, for your very kind introduction. So I've been asked by Mr. Mani to share some of our experiences of implementing Industry 4 in SMEs. And so to that effect, I have prepared a very small presentation and also a demo of an implementation in a SME unit in Chennai. If there is one message or one takeaway I wish to provide from this brief presentation, it is this, that Industry 4 is as relevant or as important or as game-changing to the SMEs as it is for the large companies. I hope I achieved that objective in this small presentation. So our experiences are based on implementations in about 110 sites. And the first step we did was to understand the challenges that the SMEs faced. And it was not surprising to find that many of the challenges were common. And I'm sure that all of you here would probably be able to relate to these challenges, which are encountered by SMEs in all jurisdictions, and including in India. Most of the organizations were entrepreneurial organizations. They were run by entrepreneurs. And even though it's a cliched statement, the buy-in of the entrepreneur or owner was critical to the success. Wherever we had that, we found that there was a great chance of success in our implementations. The third point that I wish to convey here is that the approach for the implementation of Industry 4 and SMEs involves a slightly different way of implementation. It is not a top-down, but a bottom-up minimalistic approach, which can be justified for an SME with several gates for justifications. So I will be briefly touching upon how we approached the implementation of Industry 4 to SMEs. It did not involve robots or digital twins or other very high-end, high-technology implementations, but more bottom-up and basic low-cost IoT sensors and devices, which could provide the same kind of impact for the small and medium enterprises. And then finally, I would also like to stress the point that beyond just efficiency improvement or improvement in some effectiveness within the organization, the SMEs were able to position themselves better in a more competitive manner. They could gain competitive advantage and also improve their market share. So these are some of the observations from our experiences. I'm not able to change my I'm not able to change my yes. So in our are you able to see my screen now? The next screen? Yeah. So in our journey, we did encounter some strong beliefs of in the industry sector, the SME sector, about Industry 4. The first one is Industry 4 is not affordable to SMEs, which is quite well shared. It requires sophisticated network infrastructure. It cannot work with old machines. It requires skilled IT staff, and it requires a long duration for implementation. These were all very strong beliefs. And what we learned is that even companies in the range of 25 to 50 crores in sales can successfully implement Industry 4. Basic internet is sufficient. Even legacy machines that are old, which do not have controllers, they can be digitalized. They can be brought into the digital fold. Smart solutions are available today that require only minimal IT skills. And finally, in half a day, one could install or implement a useful Industry 4 application for an SME. The half a day could be one extreme, but in generally about within a week, an Industry 4 solution can be implemented. So it's not going to involve much time. I talked about the minimalistic approach. The minimalistic approach is based on what we call as 4 dimensions and 3 connections. The 4 dimensions are on the right-hand side of your screen, the top. It starts with the smart business process. Any Industry 4 implementation will have to start with the business process becoming smart. I'll give you an example. The example here is, let us say that today, this is how most Industry 4 implementations start. Let's say today, the senior management or the owners of the SME are getting updates about their plant every, let's say, the evening, at the end of the day or next day morning by means of some reports that are collated by their staff. Let us say that the owner wants to change that process to make it visible in real time, to gain visibility of their shop in real time. So this would mean that the senior management would have the pulse of the plant at all times, and it is going to be pushed to them rather than the owners having to go and seek information. If that process has to be changed, then we need a smart solution for that process. So that process has to be first conceived. A smart solution would be a dashboard, a real-time dashboard, which is everybody knows about that. For the real-time dashboard, we need some technologies. The technology could be, we need some sensors, we need some Wi-Fi connection, we may need a tablet, we may need some connectivity. And those are all simple technologies. So internet, Wi-Fi, and sensing technologies that would be required, and probably a tablet. And then finally, it is all going to be experienced by the owner or the shop supervisor, and that would be the empowered human. And so here the focus is on what kind of report should be provided when, what type of content is important. So if we look at these 4 dimensions for against each of the pain points that we just saw, and designed a solution or construct a solution across these 3 connections. The 3 connections are, the foundation is the edge connections, where the actual device or the machines are connected through a very simple IoT device to a computer. Then we have the next level of connection, which is the application. In the case of production monitoring, there will be an application, a dashboard application. The dashboard application has to be connected to a database. It has to be connected to a quality application. So you may have a dashboard for quality, may have a dashboard for production. Those two will have to be linked, and they'll have to share a database, those connections. And then thirdly, connection of the business. The supplier has to be connected to the SME in order to understand where the status of the supplier's shop. If the supplier is supplying a critical part, whether the parts are going to be supplied on time, whether if the supplier is going to supply a raw material or a vendor is going to supply a raw material, whether raw material is going to arrive on time. That integration between businesses. So these are the three connections that are required for to be established for an SME. So these four dimensions across three connections can be constructed specifically based on the most important set of pain points that a SME is facing now, and can be addressed in a bottom-up, minimalistic way. Now, I'm going to be very brief on this. Everybody knows all of these, and there's a lot of talk about the Industry 4 benefits. But I'm going to table here basically because of the relevance to the small and medium enterprises. There are some immediate benefits that one can get from Industry 4, which are real-time visibility of the operation. There's one accurate version of the truth. Normally, in an SME, because of the manual entry of information, there can be erroneous information floating around, and one version of the truth is normally not available to the senior management or to the owners. So all of the major performance metrics like OEE, cost of quality, energy utilization, etc., would not be clearly will not be available in an accurate manner. Then that does not allow them to understand the causes of waste. So once you have accurate information and real-time visibility, one can understand the causes of waste, like waste meaning downtimes. Why is there a downtime? Why is there a material loss? Why is there a rework? And then make some corrective actions. Then for the sake of maintaining a record, we need traceability from the supplier end to the customer end. We need to know which part was produced in which batch. Those are all manually recorded now, which can be automatically recorded by the system and can be produced as reports to the customers. And then labor errors and omissions. Labor cost is not very high in India, but labor mistakes are costly, at least sometimes. And so this particular, and then there is also a need for de-skilling because skilled labor is also scarce. So Industry 4 allows for de-skilling labor tasks and also empowering them to not make errors and omissions. Our demo will show that as well. And then the mid to long, you know that the capability can be improved, the capacity can be improved, the supplier visibility can be improved, competitive advantage can be the last two are the most important as far as I'm concerned. All of the other benefits are a means to this end, to improve the competitive advantage of industry of SMEs and to improve their market share. So without further ado, I'll get into the demo now. We have a small demo prepared for this particular meeting. It was extracted from some other demo that was prepared by the Asian Productivity Organization, which funded a project to implement Industry 4 in Chennai. I just have one disclaimer before I started. The quality of the video may not be very professional, so I would like you to bear with me for that. I've organized the video in three parts. The first part, each one is about a minute. The first part would be just defining the problem. The second part would provide the solution, and the third part would be providing the benefits. So let me go ahead and play the first part.
Was conceptualized with an urge to drive the smart manufacturing transformation among the micro, small, and medium enterprises of India. Accordingly, an MSME unit from automotive sector, Vigya Automotive Private Limited, was chosen for the demonstration project. A diagnostic survey was conducted regarding the feasibility of applying relevant smart technologies in the demonstration company.
For our kind of industry, MSME or small or micro company, addressing the material shortage could be the first challenges for us.
The second challenge that they had was in terms of the rejection reasons. There were a lot of rejection in the line, quality problems,
The performance measures like overall equipment effectiveness or availability, the downtime hours, they were all sort of erroneous.
The last, but not the least, was the challenges that they faced in terms of raw material availability. Because of this lack of insight, what was happening was the production was getting affected.
Given the issues identified under various areas of concern, smart solutions were proposed.
So this concludes the first video. So we identified the five problems: material loss, quality loss, production loss, non-availability of material, or at least visibility of the availability of material, and lack of accurate information. And we tried to attempt to solve these challenges using three solutions. The first solution was to attack the quality loss and material loss. So we designed a application which would eliminate manual inspection errors by automatically connecting to a vernier caliper or dial gauge, a digital attachment that will automatically read the measurement, and thereby the inspection process is becoming made objective. And the material loss was also computed, material accounting was also computed by the same system. So we addressed two problems in this. The production monitoring system allowed for real-time connectivity to the machines. Using a very simple current sensor, we were able to understand the various states of the various machines. And the third solution was for material availability, visibility on the material availability from the suppliers. We connected as the most important suppliers of the SME to the SME. And because of the communication interaction between the supplier and the SME started getting visibility of the availability of material at the supplier site. What was when we actually started the project, the SME did not have visibility of even 2 to 3 days of material. And after we completed, they could at least get 15 days of visibility of material. So we will go ahead and play the second video, which will talk about the solution implementation. By using a digital attachment to the regular measuring instruments like vernier caliper and dial gauge, this digital attachment would send wirelessly the information regarding the measurement to a central server. And therefore, every measurement that was made was recorded accurately and objectively. So what you see now is that the inspector is trying to measure using a vernier caliper, which is now equipped with a Bluetooth sensor on the caliper itself. As the inspector is measuring it, the value of the measurement will go to the tablet which is there, and the measurement will be recorded. If the measurement is within the quality control parameters, it will accept it, or else it will reject it. The system will also prompt for subsequent measurements of the same part. So the completeness of measurement for a part is also ensured by the system. So there will be no omissions by the operator. In the case of production monitoring, which is the second solution, we are using simple current transformers to connect to old machines which do not have sophisticated controllers, in order to capture the states of the machine. So we would like to capture downtime, uptime, machine loading time, machine utilization. All of these metrics are automatically computed by just connecting simple current transformers, which are quite low cost. This is the final third solution.
Solution provides for a dashboard display of material availability for the next 4 weeks. It allows for request of material for the current month online to the suppliers. The suppliers can also acknowledge the receipt of the orders as well as update the date of likely dispatch of the material.
I think then the last one is actually the benefits of the implementation. In the words of the owner of the business.
With the implementation of this latest technology and smart technology, you can say that material loss is considerably reduced to zero. So it is ultimately going to result in improving my bottom line of the business.
Secondly, all the rejection reasons and the number of parts which were rejected with the reasons, the details are available, which allows them to take corrective action and bring down the rejection percentage.
We are going to be identifying downtimes and availability of machines objectively. As a result, we will be able to quantify idle times, and therefore we are able to provide the management with specific measures.
So here you go. These are the benefits that were incurred. So material loss became zero, elimination of operator errors, improvement in the accuracy of quality and production performance, elimination of all paper entries, reduction of rejection rates, and there was a lot of data-based decision making. So these were quite significant for the SME concerned, and it was, I think, well received by the SME and by the Asian Productivity Organization. That's all I have to present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Session, for your nice presentation in the video. And probably any questions are there, please write to Siki and we will be able to answer directly to you from Siki's office. In short of time, we would like to consider that questions can be taken through email and probably we'll be able to reply it later. Then about, can you put the second speaker's name and Bhavani, you there? Yes, please. There is a very interesting person, Mr. Vikram Vijayaraghavan, who is coming from the advocate family and is also founder of and co-chair of technology. Is a founder of a company called Frontier Technologies India. This is a very rare combination which we get to speak. So one thing which probably we expect him to talk about is the frameworks which is required for these kind of introduction of technologies or how to be resilient, because MSME will not have all the benefits to immediately do whatever they like, and we have to have a shared benefits to be given to MSME. Mr. Vikram Vijayaraghavan, take it over and probably give your views on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's my privilege to be here. Thank you, Mr. Subramaniam. I hope I'm audible. I had a couple of thoughts. I'd like to split I just want to take a few minutes because we're running out of time. And I thought I'll just split my speech into like 3 parts. Right? And the first part, I'd like to talk about resilience and what I think about resilience in the current time. See, there are 5 aspects, I think, which we can't beat around the bush. Right? The first one is about resilience in COVID situation right now. The first one is that resilience is easy in theory, but it's not so in practice. Right? So it may be possible to thought that to be resilient, but then actual practice is that we find there'll be a lot of peculiar bottlenecks and implementation bottlenecks and practical bottlenecks. Right? That's one. The second thing is, I think we all need to understand that some industries, peculiarly this problem, right, this corona problem especially, some industries are affected much more than others. So if you look at it, it seems fundamentally that life is unfair, given that if you have a company which is doing Zoom kind of thing, they'll be having huge business now, as opposed to a MSME which is doing practical hardware manufacturing. And that's how it is. So we have to understand that the amount of resilience that is required is very hard on MSMEs right now, given the way the situation is. And the third thing is the resilience that we are talking about today is something that's really peculiar. Usually what happens when we talk about resilience is that you can kind of figure out, say, suppose a CEO quits, or suppose your biggest customer quits, or suppose there is some problem, you can do that. But here it's like an earthquake where you don't have any control whatsoever. And all the factors which are there are completely external to control. So in that sense, resilience becomes very tough. And fourth thing that we need to think about, I think, in this particular scenario, just to give a background of resilience in COVID here, is that usually in a case of problem and a disaster, the smallest people are affected. And when it comes to the food chain, the supply chain, MSMEs are smaller compared to larger companies, right? And so they are pretty much affected much more than a large company, because they are sandwiched in that supply chain in which if the large company does not give contracts or there are not many people, then it becomes a problem. The final thing is there's no on-off magic switch here. As I think the other speakers, Mr. Anand and Mr. Mahajan, everybody beautifully explained, this whole process is going to take time, right? And you need to come up with practical, innovative solutions. It's not like an on-off, one day you're okay and the next day, one day you're not okay, next day you're okay. Even with the vaccine or whatever, the rollout period and the effects of this are going to be a lingering effect that we're going to have here to come out of. So having said this background on resilience and why it is very peculiar in this particular case, the next part of my topic is going to be what is the general reaction of MSMEs to this problem, right? And the third part, I will talk with what Mr. Subramanian said is what should be policy measures. I'm going to, because my background is finance and tech, I'm the de facto person who's going to talk on finance now and kind of the government policy measures and what kind of policy measures that should be done. Mr. Mahajan gave a very nice introduction into what's being done, and I would like to represent what should be done from the city side, or at least what I think should be done. Before that, so what I feel is the general reaction to this problem of COVID and the problem today is that people will hunker down and survive. That's a normal reaction, right? Even it's a human reaction, it's the same as industries. They just want to go on a daily, day-to-day operation and somehow survive. But it's at that same time we try to ask them to innovate. We are trying to ask them to be resilient. So it's really tough for people when they are actually trying to survive to say, try to do new things. Right? So this counterintuitive thing has to be built in where people have to keep trying. And in some cases, to try means to invest some hardware, invest capital. And that becomes a real big problem. If I were a software company, the entry into something or repurposing something or the agility of something is very high, right? Because it's very easy to start a new project. But as if I'm a hardware based of an MSME, it makes it that much harder. So the reaction is to hunker down. And so the idea is to make people, like, even if you hunker down, please keep trying new things, try to repurpose. That's what the approach should be. Now, having said this background for COVID and the reaction to COVID, what I would say is the policy side. On the policy side, I don't think we can expect the government to solve everything. They are also in the same boat as us. But one thing that can definitely we do understand is these are extraordinary times, and so it requires extraordinary measures in which policies also have to be extraordinarily flexible. So what are the things that they can do? I have 4 points here and I'll conclude with them. One, I think every sector has to be taken, take the MSMEs, in that, subdivide them into each sector and have bespoke solutions, have custom solutions for each sector. Each sector is very different. So for example, create subcommittees for each sector and work with that industry as to what their particular problem is. I'll give you an example. If it were, for example, in Tirupur, you will have an export initiative to say European countries, and they're all locked down. So you want to focus on where else you can export, which is not locked down, or whether you can have a consignee arrangement. Things like these are specific practical problems with respect to each industry. So I think the government needs to work with organizations like city to create these subcommittees per MSME, even subdivide into sectors and address their specific problems. Certain industries will have problem with GST refunds. Certain industries will have problem with the export of items which are banned right now, so and so. So I think that solution, the government can really help with bespoke custom solutions, creating committees with industry and the MSME and the government people in the MSME sector. The second one is financing. I think financing is the most fundamental aspect here. Right now, I think Mr. Mahajan outlined some of the measures that they are taking, which are very interesting to see. But I think one of the problems is this. The credit guarantee scheme that was there, which was announced, was put on theory, right? Now, the question is how we need to look at the data. It's very important to have transparent data and to do follow. So how many actual people have used it? How many loans have, how many MSMEs have availed it? How it has affected people, etc., has to be studied. That kind of follow-up study, just the announcement isn't enough. The kind of follow-up study is very important, and we have to tweak it with the feedback system. One of the standard problems, and I see this with my clients and other people also is, and I think other people in the panel also talked about this, when you go to avail this MSME credit guarantee scheme, unless you are already well recognized or having good history, it's tough to get into a loan system at all. They don't give it for new startups and new industries. So how this has been affected is a very important feedback that the government has to do. And I also think that the alternate financing schemes that are there, for example, as he said, the MSE workshop in districts etc. is most important. The kind of microfinance that MSME needs daily for their survival, for their labor, etc. All these hybrid schemes have to be evolved on a sector by sector basis. So that's on financing. I think a lot more needs to be done just in announcing stuff. The third one is on tax benefits. I think on tax benefits, it's very clear what they need to do. There is a section in the tax code called 80 JJA, right? Which basically says we will give you tax incentives as long as you employ people, right? And you can claim your salaries of more than 100 people. I mean, there are various sections to it, subsections to it. But one of the things is to extend it, saying that if you do give jobs or if you sustain jobs, then you will get tax benefits. The way that we are going to be resilient, I think we can also ask the government to be resilient on the tax code and various codes which are there and make it very flexible. I think the job-related incentive kind of tax benefits are extremely important, which can really help the industry. That's one. Second is to actually reduce a lot of the tax burdens which is possible. They have been trying to do that, and I think that can be continued. The third thing is, I think with respect to the tax code, one of the things has always been the notion of refunds and having been stuck in terms of cash flow. Right? And I think all of that can be assuaged much better. But a lot more innovative schemes can be done. I'll give you an example. One of the major economists have been saying that why don't you suspend all income tax for now and instead increase telecom spectrum fees and other fees and try to make money there and then bring it back after the pandemic is there. These may be radical solutions, but extraordinary times require extraordinary measures. So this is some angle that the government needs to look at. The last one I'd like to talk about is the workforce-related measures. One of the interesting things that the UK has done, for example, is they basically said, if I remember, businesses will get a £1,000 bonus for each employee they bring back from the furlough. Right? One of the classic things that we do is that when we hunker down and survive, we try to get rid of all the what we feel are discretionary or what we feel are extra, right? And it leads to a whole bunch of layoffs, and those people are not rehired back, right? In many cases, and it would be good if that employee workforce is sustained in some form or the other, so that they can spend and there's a demand by them also of the various other parts of the economy. So how to keep the employee workforce in place? I think in MSMEs especially. I mean, there can be some innovative schemes like how it's being done in the UK. And they actually cost, in the UK, they're spending up to $9 billion to bring back 9 million workers. That's their estimate. And some schemes like that in India should also be formulated. So to summarize, I would say from a policy angle, bespoke or custom solutions, financing solutions, tax benefits in various innovative forms, and workforce preservation in various forms. These are the kind of policy angles that I think the government can do. They have done a lot of things, but I think the important thing is the feedback loop, the data analysis, the data transparency, and keeping on innovating these things and being as flexible as industry for it to survive. Finally, I'll conclude with this. The most important aspect, obviously, is the demand stimulus, which is important. And I think other panelists and Mr. M. Subramanian will also bring that up, because that is where the real solution lies, where systems can come back to normal. And I hope we get through this as soon as possible. And I really thank you for this opportunity to address you all. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vikram. I think he has brought out some of the policy matters, which SICI has also probably be able to take up, and other panels in the committees in the SICI have some direction from technology space as well as from Vikram, which he has laid out. One of the things which I wanted to add is to government to give a framework for smart manufacturing also, which will help the industries to look at how do we adapt this quickly. So now without delay, probably I wanted to introduce the next speaker. Bhavani, can you help me?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I was surprised. I was surprised to see one of the youngest CEO. Then I was wondering whether he says that he is running some 5 tools engineering company and 1 shop floor. I was surprised that at this young age, probably he has taken up so much of load on particularly manufacturing. Then I came to understand that he is the 2nd generation entrepreneur. I was also surprised he has not gone into IT. But he has a whole lot of experience to back, because it's running one industry itself is a difficult. He is running 5 industries at 5 different places and with manufacturing also. So we would like to hear from Mr. Ramachandar, because he is also committee for SICI MSME. Probably most of the other speakers what he spoke, I think he is going to have lots of work to be done in MSME through this chair position. Hopefully Ramchandra can take it from here and then introduce yourself and probably take it from.
Yeah, good evening to all the dignitaries who are present here. Am I audible? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to all the dignitaries present in this forum. I'd just like to start on a lighter note. This pandemic has taught us a lot of new words like quarantine, asymptomatic, resilience, and this is a good topic that we've taken today, because these words have probably become, a part of our everyday life today. Anyway, coming back to the topic, most of us entrepreneurs are, from the ground reality, what we face today is really broken supply chain, collapse of markets, depletion in workforce, both skilled and unskilled, which is kind of, brought us to a standstill kind of thing. So we really needed to fight with more energy than what a simple resilience required. So everybody was like, okay, then we started to, a lot of us in the industries, then we actually formed some CEO forums where we kind of discussed how we are going to, pull back from this situation. And the first thing that came to our mind was a wonderful saying. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, but the best time after that is now. So we kind of started to think from there. And we broadly structured this approach into a short-term goal, into a mid-term goal, and a long-term goal. And then we wanted to adapt the strategy on 3 verticals. One was basically under the leadership, the second was under financial resilience, and third was under operational resilience. So what we structured under the short, mid, and long-term goals under leadership was like, first we wanted to, renew the confidence among all stakeholders, be it suppliers, be it our customers, or be it our own employees, our team members. We wanted to first, take them into confidence and give them a new load of energy. Then the second thing, as a leader, what we started to do was we started to look for new horizons and new opportunities. So we were moving here and there. So we converted some of those, when we were busy running our hand-to-mouth businesses every day, we were not able to look for these new opportunities. So this time kind of, gave us that opportunity. So as the leadership team in the company took to that. And the third thing was, we were also very careful when we were managing this change in these tough times, because we didn't want to, this problem to be leading us to something bigger. So we were ensuring that our change management system was also very good. So this was largely what we did under the leadership resilience portfolio. The second thing was we were looking at financial resilience. So the first thing was we tried to optimize all our available resources to pull back expenses. But at the same time, we were very careful that we didn't override pulling those things, because we needed to keep spending also at an adequate level. There's a very careful balance between cutting on expenses at the same time, keep spending expenses side with which was basically essential to stay afloat with a long-term vision. You were spending both to stay afloat and ensuring that expense was going to help you in the future also. We have started to create some kind of reserve for the rainy day, so that now probably will take a big part or a very critical part of our balance sheets in future. One thing on the financial resilience is what helped us, come back or pull back very quickly was the kind of discipline that we were having in our financial structure over a period of time. Since we were our structure, since we are a very old company and our balance sheets were properly in place, and since we were adhering to most of the government regulations and other things, there was a good support from the market. Most of these policies or other help structures that came out from the government, we were able to get because of that discipline. Of course, a lot of industries felt certain difficulty in getting these benefits, where I will say from the policy perspective, the government should ensure some kind of last mile delivery is happened. My third and probably the last thing is the operational resilience that we have done is the current pandemic really tested how fragile our entire logistics system is, both upstream and downstream. So localization really helped exploring, just like how as a leadership team we were looking for more businesses in newer avenues. We were having people look at us as a potential customer to them. So that helped us handhold each other and kind of localize some products that were coming from outside, and that to a large extent helped us sustain this kind of a pandemic. Another major problem that we were facing was the sudden drop in labor, and sometimes we even lost this migrant laborers, whether skilled or unskilled. So a lot of the skill was transferred to low-cost automation, of course, not to the level of Industry 4.0, but to tide over. But one thing we were very careful about when we were implementing these low-cost automations, where they were more generic in nature, and they could be with us at least for a mid-term period of time, maybe at least looking at next 2 to 3 years, because one is the consideration of return of investment, and the second is the skill level that was there. So these low-cost automations helped us tide over these kind of problems again. On the whole, I'd like to summarize this whole concept of resilience has been more of a team sport rather than a one-man approach. So in the industry, we approached it more like a team, and then we're playing the game. So far, so good. We hope, as another panelist wished, we hope we will tide over this as early as possible, and we'll have the good times again. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. Wonderful being with you.
Thanks, Ramchandra. I think Ramchandra shared all our pain, how the solutions we have approached. Most of us who have been in the industries probably gone through a similar experience. Probably he has given some input on how he has managed structural leaders. Probably the next speaker is going to be very interesting. Bhavani, can you list the next speaker? Yes, Anantaraman Prakash. I think when I heard him, he says he has been all his life, I think, in automobile industries with cars and that technology related to that. And he was a design engineer, product engineering and design engineer throughout his life, and he has worked in more than, if I'm not heard wrongly, more than 20 countries. And what does design have to do with this kind of resilience? He is the best person to probably talk about this. We hear so much of design thinking in many of our speeches earlier, but we also can hear directly from Mr. Prakash on how he would like to see these issues and the solutions accordingly. Over to you, Mr. Prakash.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Greetings and good evening. Thank you. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, and good evening to all the dignitaries here. And it's a great opportunity for me to be a panelist here. So yes, as being told, I come from a different space. I would say from an automotive space where I've spent my entire journey in automotive, research and advanced engineering on the vehicle development, those kind of stories. So of course, I have a very less experience of being inside an MSME, but yes, from the outside perspective, I have seen the MSME on overall the pictorial view, and then I would like to give my thought process in terms of a small presentation, which all the other speakers have nicely touched upon many factors, best practices, what they have done in COVID, what are the resilience factors. So it's a kind of, you can take it as a kind of sum up story then with my small presentation, and in the interest of time I would like to rush a little bit and share some of the few thought process in terms of design thinking, or in terms of the what can be done as manufacturing, what I look at it on the bigger screen. Yeah, so let me share my presentation. Once you see my screen, kindly confirm me. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir, we can.
Yeah. So the topic which has been we are talking about resilience, which my co-speaker said it's very interesting part, but I would like to say this is towards resilience to excellence. That's what I call it. And then why I'm telling this story, so we can look at from this. So let me give you some background. We all know about it. We talked about COVID-19 and all. Like today, where we stand is kind of a destination unknown. We don't know our destination because there are so many things happening in and around us. And what is the effect of this destination unknown story to all our life, whether we are on our personal front or on a professional front or as an MSME or as an MNC. Though I'm from MNC, it is not an excuse for us. I have also went through all these issues. So if you see in this, there were a lot of crash crunches, there were a lot of resources issue, there was a supply shock, there was a demand shock, there are so many things happened. So we are all in the capacity constraint. So as I always think that we are all one family and we are a connected family. The MSME and MNCs or MSME and bigger firms are the one family, and always it is a connected story. So when I look at it, it is nothing but what I would see from outside towards my inside is an introspection. That's what I call. What is introspection? So we need to look at on three pillars, basically: introspection on people, introspection on process, as well as introspection on product. I'm sure we all know that the word before coronavirus and after is not the same. Definitely there will be changes, and definitely these crises will bring up bigger opportunity for us and make us to go through a different view. So let me tell you what is the sustainable development cycle according to me. So if I look at it, this is a 5-stage cycle. I mean, I would say this is start with crisis, then we started responding, then we started now adaptation and resilience, which is a talk of today's topic, and we go to the especially the future, which is towards excellence or towards prosper. So some of the thought process, what I put these 5 stages recovery model is basically the crisis and respond. We all went through already. We surpassed this, I would say, kind of a milestone, wherein entire the crisis management team we set up as an industry, whether it is a bigger or a smaller, all the business continuity strategy has been established. As you know, we all started working from home, which is completely a new norm for many of the manufacturing setups. And prioritization, we started prioritizing based on what is customer need. and what is customer demand, what is required for tomorrow, not for next year. And then a lot of safety and health management systems we have put in place, which has been demonstrated by all other, the co-speakers in their presentations. So today where we stand is in adaptation and resilience. This is a very important stage, surpassing adaptation and moving towards resilience. Some of the factors which I feel personally is one of the fundamental element is the cost optimization. Then we think about the investments, we think about the growth areas, and also what kind of model will reward me in upcoming things, and what kind of customer choice and values we need to inbuild, because value addition is a very important fundamental element now at this stage. We repeat this PDCA cycle, we can definitely arrest this crisis management over a period of time towards moving to the prosperity of new way of living. So with this, I would like to touch upon which Mr. Ramachandran has talked about before. The resilience can redefine our needs and wants. So I have put resilience into 5 factors. As an operational resilience, leadership resilience, revenue resilience, organization resilience, and financial resilience. These are the 5 fundamental resilience which can happen to any industry, whether it is big or small. So 3 fundamental elements which has been talked by Mr. Ramachandran very nice, and also the policies which needs to govern this. So let me take you through one of the simple explanation on one element on each state.
Bhavani, are you there?
Yes, sir. I guess there is some network issue from Prakash sir's side. Let me check, sir.
In the meanwhile, probably if anyone wanted to share their experience in a minute, probably it will be very helpful for others to listen. I think many of us are not letting them come into this. Probably what we wanted to do in Sikhi is something what today we share is a very larger perspective about how the organizations probably been resilient. But during the next few months, probably we also wanted to approach with the companies and look at some case studies of how do we help them to build it. Probably we also would like to work on policy matters related to government. And if you really see, we have people, the chair of MSME is also part of this panel. And we both, technology and MSME, would like to work together to find out solutions which can be useful for the adoption in the industries. So we would like you to write to us so that if there is a further interest on very specific subjects, we should be able to come out with some solution, because every one of us, each one of us is coming from a different background, and probably they have many other connections which can help us to really build a very strong ecosystem around us. So, Bhavani, can you find out whether this thing is...
Sir, he joined back, I guess.
Yeah, you can ask him to present, please. Resilience to the network is, I think, probably poor, because when I started this, I had 3 different boxes and 2 different connections, because if I come down on connection, I wanted to have different process to adapt. Bhavani, is he coming back?
He was there, sir. Now I couldn't able to see his here. I guess there is some network problem from his side.
So can you ask him to speak at least without presentation? That is fine.
Sure, sir. I tried calling him. I'll do that. Please give me.
Yeah, I think he's here. He's here.
Join,
Yeah.
sir.
Mr. Prakash is there and probably he can speak. Yeah. Go ahead, Prakash.
Just a minute, sir. I'm trying to share the document. Sorry for the, it's a net issue. I hope you can see the screen now. Is it visible?
No, sir. We could see your screen, but the presentation is not there. Like it's blank.
Just give me a minute.
Can you speak, Mr. Prakash, and share
Yeah, sorry. So I was talking about the deep localization. When I talk about deep localization, it is providing an end-to-end solution as a supplier rather working only on manufacturing, which will have definitely an implication of more than 20% of revenue addition to the supplier as well as the value addition to a customer. Similar way, you can think about the fasteners, where the fasteners can be localized and you can make it as a packaging to provide the solution as a one-stop solution to your customers. Similar way, the other areas, if I talk about something on the automation, our colleagues were talking about automation, about whether you create a small Excel macro or you create and you introduce a disruptive technology like AI and ML, but definitely it will have a value addition. So small automation can definitely help the small industries to come up, and the relay on the systems will definitely improve their productivity, competitiveness, as well as the time to the market. Similar way, now you can think in a manufacturing area that the bigger picture of bringing your in-house logistics, maybe a kind of automotive guided vehicle, which will help you to move the internal logistic and material handling, which will help your employees in terms of safety, but also in terms of managing a smart way your factories. Similarly, if we bring another example of the bigger manufacturing setup, what they are trying to do now, the operational excellence, if I want to say today, the manual inspections has been moved with the systematic inspection by introducing the technologies. Today, the technology is doing the inspection instead of a human, thereby it is resulting more than 12 to 13% of efficiency improvement as well as the productivity improvement. So this is some of the the things which we can think about the productivity improvement as such. So now coming to the last two elements, which I want to, before that I want to close, that Industry 4. We are talking about Industry 4. For me, the entire manufacturing ecosystems will have 4 basic fundamental layers. The first layer will talk about the materials. The second layer will talk about a design, which you call it as a product design or a part design. The third important layer is the manufacturing, and the fourth important layer is the performance. So, which is nothing but we call it as a thermal science or whatever. This kind of the pyramid structure lies whether you are in automotive or you're in software industry or you are in any industry, but this fundamental pyramid always lies. So what I was thinking, if we can derive a one S element inside these 4 layers, which will definitely give a different outlook of Industry 4. That one S element which I want to connect with each layer is, in case of materials, it is what we talk about is the strength. The strength of the material is very key. Similar way, the design, the safe design is one of the fundamental elements. And again, if I talk about manufacturing, it is the smart approach. Again, the S comes into the picture. Then performance is a significant performance. I would say again, yes. So my view is the Industry 4 is nothing but deriving the 4S for the future success. And coming to the last part of my, the slide, I would like to say that all our future is very bright. Only element is we need to capitalize our strength, which are inside every industry, whether it is MSME or it is an MNC. So to me, I look at COVID is a journey from destination unknown when I started sharing with you my view. Now it is destination unlimited. So we are moving from unknown area to unlimited area where the opportunities are so huge where you can able to, tackle and address it. So I put a definition for COVID. In my view, is COVID is nothing but creating opportunity for validating our introspection and development. And the 19 stands for 19 jewels, which all of us is having as an industry or as a family, which we need to capitalize, which starts from creativity, which starts from, I would say about ownership, V for value addition, I for innovation, and similarly, D for disruptive technology introduction into the Industry 4. With this, I would like to conclude my few information sharing with you. Thank you so much and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash. Positively ended it, and we started with the vaccine where MD of Saint Gobain has given us, and you have given us an opportunity of COVID-19, what the opportunities which you are seeing and looking at from a larger industry perspective. Thank you very much for all the panelists who have shared their views, and probably we will expect an email from others to be able to help us in structuring our thought going forward. I would request Mr. Balachandar, who has helped us in promoting this event, to the other organization, EMA, and probably he is going to give the closing remarks for us. And I am very eager to hear from him what is his experience and what is he looking for the future of our industries. Over to you, Mr. Balachandar.
Thank you, Mr. Subramaniam. Am I audible? Resilience in manufacturing. Well, resilience in manufacturing can learn a lot from resilience in service sector. If you look at schools, classes have given way to virtual classes. Like that, you have the doctors now doing telemedicine, going from their clinics. You have the customer support by chat or virtual assistants. So I think manufacturing has to learn a lot from the service sector, which has quickly adapted to the new normal, new situations. I think adapting rapidly to the changing situation, both internal and external, is the most important thing in today's circumstances. And what we are looking at is how to manage what they call the VUCA syndrome: volatility, uncertainty, and complexity and ambiguity. That's what everybody talks about. And the innovation seems to be at the core of everything now. And if you look at companies in Tirupur, people who were making garments for export have quickly adapted themselves to make PPE kits or masks and things like that, and then managed to keep their business running. So I think that similarly, if you look at fabricators, they have also started for this contactless sanitizer equipments, hand washing without touching the taps and things like sensor based. So they adapted quickly to the new situation. So I think industry has to learn a lot how to the new situation. And I think any customer problem is at the root of a business opportunity. So solving a customer problem makes for a big business opportunity. And today's world is driven by tech innovation, not increased assets. So if you look at business today, any tech innovation is what is making big business. Look at Baiju, look at Paytm. So manufacturing, though it cannot happen that way, I think we have to be asset light. Look at more innovation. That is what is going to take us forward. The MSMEs, I think whoever has attended today must be really an eye-opener for hearing Mr. Anand's session. That Industry 4, even I was also thinking till 4.0 is not something that can immediately happen to MSMEs, but he has made a very lucid presentation and help very small units also to take the benefit of artificial intelligence and IoT. And I also heard about all the schemes that Mr. Vishnu Mahajan, IAS Additional Director, has explained. And one of the things that they have given, the 25% waiver for capital subsidy, was something which IMA had represented to the director. But unfortunately, we had requested for the investments made in 1819, or rather 1920. But the government circulars come for 2021, because in 2021, not many people would be investing. So the benefit of this waiver will happen only if they can change the date to 1920 as requested for IMA. Through this forum, I would request Mr. Mahajan to have a relook at that. And finally, I think as a finance man, I would leave a thought with all of you. Whenever we think of manufacturing, we think it consists of material, men, machinery, and money. But the first three are variable. Money is what is going to finance all the three. So money is what is being borrowed. So the interest cost is part of your manufacturing. So although it is nice to borrow from the bank and start your business, I think every company should look at this pandemic and see how they have been affected and pressurized by the financial situation, and see that 1/3 of their annual profits, whatever they make after tax, they use it for their working capital. Instead of continuously borrowing, we think every time my turnover goes up by 20%, I need to borrow 20% more from the bank. It's not right. I think if you keep that money in your company and reduce the bank, ultimately, between two companies, if one is not borrowing at all and one is borrowing heavily, that makes a big difference, because the one company that does not borrow keeps all the interest that would have paid to the bank as its own profit. So I think ultimately it must be a goal that you reduce your bank borrowing to only long-term asset addition rather for the working capital. So that will probably be a very big help to push through such sudden emergencies or this pandemic-like situation. So I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Arun, President SICKI, Mr. Msmes Subramaniam, Chairman SICKI Technology Committee, all the other office bearers of SICKI, all the speakers and dignitaries who are coming today on behalf of IMA. Thank you very much for today's session, which was very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your speech. I thank Mr. M.V. Subramanian, Mr. Anand Seshan, Mr. Vikram Vijayaraghavan, Mr. Ramachandar, and Mr. Prakash Anandraman for sharing your perspectives. Your views were quite practical and valuable, and sure it would have added value for our members. Thank you, Mr. Balachandran, sir, for concluding the session. I thank everyone for participating in this webinar. Hope it was informative to all. Thank you once again and have a great evening. Thank you all.